Hello there, listener. Welcome to Barely Qualified. My name is Morgan. Alongside me, as ever, is Ryan. We are barely qualified to be talking about Formula One, but we're going to talk about it nonetheless. Ryan, we had a British Grand Prix, an unprecedented British sprint race as well. Some incredibly exciting moments through the weekend. Talk us through your notes. What is on the pod this week?
Right. Welcome back, everyone. So, on the notes this week, gonna have to find a name for these notes. A little bit like Ted's notebook, but you know, Ryan's notebook or something. So, notes in the Google Notes are double quality debrief, sprint, amazing, Lego cars. Let's talk. Let's no, sorry, Lego cars. Let's chat. Rant. I've got a rant. I've got a rant. A big one. I feel like this has been brewing. We've got a note about Stroll, obviously. Max, not happy. Lewis, fuck up. Kimmy, love the fight. Safety car, fuck you, FIA. Din Dude, grid rival update. And the question from last week, which I haven't put on my notes, but I've just remembered I asked it. So I shall, as mentioned on the last podcast, I asked Morgan to do his homework and tell us who is old gen cars and what drivers are new gen cars and if it's even a thing. And I wanted to know what his thoughts were on that and who he may have on his list. So,
Well, actually, just quickly on that, I do have an answer, but I suspect that we might go a little bit long on this pod. So I submit, we have a
okay.
break coming up.
Oh,
There's
okay.
no Grand Prix next weekend
Yeah, yeah.
slash this weekend coming. So maybe we'll look at that next week.
Sounds good to me, mate. Sounds good to me. I like the time warning already at 2 minutes 01. You are on it. So, you two people watching, you may get some finger signals telling us to get a move on. Um, we have a habit of chatting too long. But who says it's a 10-minute podcast? No one. This podcast is for the diehards, the long listeners,
Yeah,
you know.
we like it to be longer than the
Um,
actual Grand Prix itself.
we do. Yes, yes, that's already long enough, especially with a sprint weekend. So straight into it then. Double quali debrief. I always find it hard to talk about quali after we start with something else. So let's start with that. And I know it's like probably I don't even know if we should really include this in most cases because it can be a little bit boring, but we'd be very quick on it, I think. So the quali for both the sprint and the actual race. If I remember rightly, I was rather excited about the sprint quali.
Well, you would
Um,
be as a diehard Lewis Hamilton fan. Of course, you would have been very pleased to see
yes,
him pip Kimi Antonelli, not by very much, but that was a fantastic qualifying. And not only that, it went Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull. So the top three with three different cars in it sort of
that's right.
boded,
That's right. Yeah,
boded very well for the weekend as a whole. I think at that point it was very exciting. Like, oh, we've got three cars here. To be fair, Max was like 3/10 off those two, so there was a bit of a gap, but it was still exciting to have three different cars in the top three, kind of suggesting that, um, yeah, that it was going to be an exciting weekend for both the sprint and the race, because anyone could win it, and yeah, anyone, I think anyone could have.
yeah, yeah. No, like I say, it was exciting. And obviously the fact that I had made, um, well, you know, no secret, we were, certainly rooting for Sir Lewis Hamilton to get a 10th win. Okay, it was a sprint qualifying, but it meant that is this looking quite tasty for the actual qualifying for the race, which it kind of wasn't miles off. I mean, the big difference was Max, obviously from the qualifying in the race. We had him then down in seventh. Um, Kimi whipped it on pole, which again is no shock. But it was more Charles sort of came out of nowhere to suddenly then surpass Hamilton.
Here's an
So
interesting one for you. Now, I know day to day the track evolves, it changes, etc. But Charles Leclerc's time that he got second with would have been fast enough for him to qualify on pole on Friday in the sprint qualifying. Um,
Right.
Now Antonelli improved by 0.2, qualifying to qualifying. Hamilton, uh, interestingly, got worse. He dropped a tenth. So, kind of based just loosely just on those two, I think it's fairly comparable. Charles Leclerc did a 1:28.7 in sprint qualifying and then a 1:28.2. So he gained half a second, which I think really spoke to. I just don't think he got it right at all. And he was nowhere kind of through practice and then in both sprint qualifying and the sprint. And then just kind of came out of nowhere and usurped Hamilton. And I think everybody, the British fans, us mere mortals watching on TV, like really, I think he came out of nowhere. Suddenly bangs it on
Mm.
second.
I think also because he's obviously been in pretty poor form himself,
Really
and
poor
the fact
form.
that Lewis has been on great form, it was just such a swing, I suppose. It's like everyone's just expecting Lewis to continue because he got pole in the sprint, and everyone's expecting Charles to continue to struggle. But there's obviously was always going to slightly work out that one would that it would become closer. Obviously because Charles has been a relatively consistent driver over the years, so it's quite unique to see him actually in bad form. So
Mm.
yeah, good to see him back. I mean, Hamilton's still got a bit of a gap to him, so we'll see how it plays out. But it's another one in the mix, isn't it? If it's not just Hamilton now hunting the Mercedes boys, it's now both Ferrari boys. So that will make it interesting.
For sure.
You know,
And also,
it's
whilst we're talking about qualifying, Isaac Hadjar out qualifying on pace Max Verstappen in
yes, yes,
the proper qualifying,
yeah.
and he wasn't brilliant, but not in terms of time, not miles away from Max in the sprint quali. So he qualified eighth for the sprint, but he was only 0.2, not even really 1.5 tenths behind Max in the sprint quali. So it wasn't miles off the pace in sprint, and then out qualified him by again about a tenth and a half in the actual quali. So again, comment.
Yeah, 128.7
Tell me why you're more
Max
qualified than me.
128.8.
When was the last time that the second driver in a Red Bull on pace out qualified Max? Um, I'm struggling to think. Has Isaac done it this year? I feel like he might have, possibly,
I don't.
maybe.
Maybe.
But I think
Yeah.
maybe he
Like you
has,
say, you said, but
maybe he
then,
has, maybe he hasn't. But I think
like you said, on pace though, has he? I can't say that I can, off the top of my head, remember that. I feel like it. I feel like he's out qualified him, but that may have been through some
technical issues or whatever.
technical issues, possibly even a. I mean, I suppose you could say that if Max makes a mistake, then he's still out qualified. But I suppose I think the point that you're getting at is if Max is then gone, sort of put in a lap. I'm thinking if he's like, when I say mistake, I'm not talking like didn't take the apex at the quite right corner, right angle. I'm talking about like if he generally has spun out in qualifying. Like I'm talking like finished the lap, put your what you could do is your best lap. I'm struggling to think of another race where it's been like that because the minute that happened, straight away you're thinking, oh hello,
Well,
blimey, So
it really caught me by surprise. So I
I can't
suspect,
remember feeling that way yet this season so
and
far,
I
and
can't
it's
remember
just
feeling that way
gone.
for a long time about Red Bulls. So there we go. I mean, I don't know what the history is, but I think it was a big moment anyway, and well done,
And,
Hadjar.
and it
Really
and it
speaks
and
to.
it happens so rarely, doesn't it? I mean, even when Perez was there, you know, there were races that Perez won a couple of races. There's a couple of races that I'm pretty sure that Perez put it on pole. So it,
Certainly
it's
Saudi Arabia, all the street circuits, that always seemed to be where
street
Perez
circuits.
did
Yeah,
well, wasn't
exactly. Like Az- Azerbaijan.
it?
I think
Butchered
I've
that.
gone butchered that twice, probably three times. Um, but I thought but it happens so well. It just doesn't happen. So when it happens, it is quite bad. I was actually meant to put that on my notes. To be fair, I remember when I was watching it, it was meant to go on my notes, but I obviously didn't put it on there. But yeah, crazy. We will get to a bit more of Max in a bit because there's obviously a few, not only his race, but then there's a few rumours and things. So we'll probably have a bit of good chatter
Grumblings.
regarding
I think
him
we
as we
could
go down the
describe them as
list.
grumblings, I would say.
Yeah. Other than that, nothing really shocking in the qualifying. The Racing Bulls were in there, which again is kind of expected now. They've kind of solidified themselves as like the next best team from the kind of the top four, haven't they? So again, not any surprises there. Just below though, below Jesus Christ, tongue Tisler. Below them is Bortoletto in the Audi, and then Gasly in the Alpine, followed by the Hulk, which I had so much hope for the Hulk this weekend, and he fucked me right in my just just right in there. Just can't believe it. All my hopes were there. Grid rivals, predictions, the lot. It just disappeared, but we'll get to all of
Yeah,
that.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
So yeah, standard quali in the last few races has kind of been the same. Ferraris are pushing the Mercedes. The Red Bull's just behind. McLarens are a little bit no man's land ish, and the Racing Bulls keep getting themselves into Q3. So I think we can probably wrap quali up there. Sprint, I've got here then in my notes. Sprint amaze.
So you got to talk to me about this because I mean, I feel like that noise probably comes from the same thing that I was thinking. But
So
talk to me.
I'm watching the race. And I'm getting all excited again, anyway. I'm getting all like, first opening laps. I'm like, oh my God, it's oh, what did it remind me of? It was not the first race of the season, Australia. What was the second race of the season? Second race of the season, because I want to get this right, was
China.
China.
Yeah, China.
China. They had a sprint, didn't they? They had a sprint, yeah. So
They
it
did, yeah.
reminded me, and we were just in awe, weren't we? We were losing our shit. I'm sure if we go back a few pods now, back to the China one, you probably hear me at high pitch, and we were both just giggling like kids until we then got into the debate of every phrase that you can mutter under the new regulations, megajoules and everything that goes with that. All of a sudden, we were then on a low. I was watching the sprint, getting so excited, and I was excited, and then I it, things were then bothering me a little bit, but I remained optimistic and I was still in it. And then, like most, well, I say most fans, maybe a lot of fans don't do this. I then watch the aftermath, and we then take in all of the analytics and you know, um, we go to the lap TV and the analysis and everything, and then I start to get pissed off because then the things that I would kind of was niggling me, or what I thought was happening was actually happening, and it just it just really wound me up. The 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 overtakes, and we've spoke about this. I don't want to sort of go over old ground, but it's this thing, isn't it, of it being artificial, and the skill that you just when it starts off and people are overtaking them, on the outside and using their energy deployment because they don't know where the fucking hell to use it yet on this. They're all just getting so trigger happy, which was the exciting part. The them not knowing when to use their boost was the entertaining part. It was like, oh shit, oh I've used it all. Oh, now I'm using mine. Oh no, I should have used it there. But once they then start to work out where they need to use it, then it becomes a bit rubbish because it's enough. Well, now they know where to use it, and now we're getting these. We're slowing down on the straight. We're passing. There's no effort there. There's no point in trying to defend the block. They know it's coming, and obviously, ultimately, uh, Lewis knew that in the sprint race once Antonelli passed him. So, I mean, did you watch it the same, or were you just excited? Did you think it was amazing and it's just the best thing ever, or?
I thought. Uh, I mean, again, I don't want to cover too much like old ground, but like my summary is, I actually just thought it was amazing, and then And then I felt like it calmed down and kind of became more of a sort of typical race after those kind of initial laps where, like you say, like where the car was using the battery, Mercedes seemed to go down a completely different route. They were basically all using it at the end of the lap, and the other cars seemed to be using it at the beginning or in the middle sector more. Um, but what I did think, I mean, you could call it like artificial, sure, but I thought the actual overtakes themselves, particularly in those opening laps, there were lots of like going round the outside,
There was, yes, and I
overtaking
think,
round cops and all that kind of stuff, and I
and I
mean there
think
was
that's when they were using it. I think and that's what I'm saying. They were using that when they thought, oh, I've got like an extra boost here. I'll use that then, and because they're all so close, they could then get tailwind from from other drivers, and they could make it stick. I mean, the fact that when you think of like Norris battling and getting in amongst that, and Hamilton and Antonelli battling, Russell battling with Verstappen and Norris all in a line, and then Leclerc joining that party, it was massively exciting. I'm not denying that. But we realised the only reason that was exciting is because they were all being trigger happy. And once they realised they were being too trigger happy, then what I call the next stage of overtakes, they then became a little bit more, oh, and as we've mentioned in the past, it's it's very different for the viewer because and people can be each their own. I'm the type of viewer and I'm the type of fan that why I love F1 so much is because it's very analytical. It's You've got lap times, you've got you've got margins between one other drivers, you've got tire offsets, you've got strategy with the pit stops and when they're going to change. You've got all these things that you really now. Some people might not. Some people might just want to sit there, watch racing, watch overtakes. And that's be entertainment. I love this driver. I just want to follow them. I want to buy all the merch. I want to be a fan. Great. You've got those fans. You've got other fans. You've got this fan. You've got that fan. I'm this fan. I'm this fan that takes in. I'm looking at the timing screen. I'm looking and I'm playing that game of I'm going to predict who's going to overtake who. I know so much about F1 because I know I've seen it in the past, and I know that he's looking after his tyres, and that's graining. I'm looking at the screen, looking at different tyres, so I'm taking it all in. I'm not saying I'm a pro. I'm not saying that I'm going to get it right all the time, but I'm playing that game. I'm playing
yeah, sure.
along to that.
And you've and
And all
you've
of a sudden,
yeah, you've talked about this before on previous pods about looking at that time delta and like predicting the overtake and stuff. I would, not to like cut you short, but I think we have kind of covered that ground quite a lot on the pod.
yeah,
What I
yeah,
would say about the sprint, but also the race that followed in terms of that is, I think you then got that in the race and indeed in the sprint. So if you look at Kimi on Lewis in the sprint, for example, like there wasn't any yo-yoing. They both broke away because the other guys behind were too busy fighting in and amongst themselves, and basically Lewis and Kimi just kind of drove away from them. And it was a slowly catchy monkey, and Kimi got closer and closer and closer, and it was that traditional kind of, oh, he's getting closer and closer. He never played silly buggers with the boost button, and he had one
no, he
opportunity to
didn't.
get past, which he took, and then sort of drove away. And it
And
was
he took it in, and he took it in a unique spot. It wasn't like your generic right play, but even still, I tell you what, right? To sum this up, I'll read you something, right, that I saved for this pod. I wanted to see what you thought about it. And this for me kind of summed it up. It's from a driver. It's from Alonso. I don't know if you've seen any comments that he said, and I don't actually have a date of when he said these, but I'll read them to you. So this is just on the F1 regulations from Alonso. Um, in this F1, there's no talent, no speed, no risk. You just need to press a button. I didn't watch the race today. Yesterday, I saw a short clip of the sprint with people overtaking in the middle of the straight with more battery. You don't need to brake faster than anyone. No need to overtake on the outside. No need to take risks. You just need to press a button and you overtake if you have better power than the car in front. And I read that and I was like, yeah. And that's a double world champion. You're a massive fanboy of him, like literally, arguably one of your favourite drivers because of his talent, because of all of his amazing feel for the car, what is Alonso, the ultra driver. And if he's saying that, I don't think that. I think he knows what he's talking about. I think he knows more than me and you. I think he knows more than the generic F1 fan, probably hating us talking about this or commenting on videos and reels. And if you're a Drive to Survive fan, you just simply do not know what that man knows. And I don't want to be negative, and I don't want to have a terrible rant about it. But when I watched the race, like you've just said it there, oh, I didn't think it was in the race. But I did. I watched the race after the sprint, and I'm sitting there going, I hate the fact that the most talented drivers are, that are sitting there getting overtaken by a better energy deployment. It is just crap. And I also hate the fact that I don't really know if it's going to happen or not. Like, not that I want it to be predictable, but I want to play along. I want to feel like I understand. Like, no one needs to explain to me what the energy deployment is. We've looked into it. We've spoken about it. You're very good on that. You're very detailed on that. If I want to know something, I could ask you, right? And you can explain it to me probably better than what I could read it somewhere because, I'm just better at sort of hearing it, displaying it, whatever. We've even got F1 people doing it on the shows to try and help the fan understand it a little bit more. We've even said on the pod that they're not really talking about it much now because I think that they probably thought they were overcomplicating it to fans. So therefore, if they just don't talk about it at all, then the fans feel like they can just get on and watch it. But this weekend that we were told, and they were kind of wrong. We were told it's going to be a terrible, terrible race because it was going to be energy starved and all this kind of stuff. And it turned out it actually wasn't as bad as what they thought it was. And we had overtakes. We had this, and Jensen Button said it in the thing. Or what do you want? No overtakes? It's like, well, that's not the question, Jensen. It's do we want quality overtakes? And yes, it's being a bit picky and it's being a little bit. But I want the best drivers to be winning the duels, not a shit driver, not a shit driver, but not a driver just simply, like Anthony's not a crap driver. I'm not getting to that point. But Lewis Hamilton racing Max Verstappen around Austria and trying to use their deployment and stuff like that. And we're in the same era of cars. Looked amazing. It was brilliant. And we had something similar where Max and Lewis, well, I thought we were teeing up for something in this race. And then he gets up behind Max. We're sort of teeing it up. There's a bit of a hard defense by Max, and then it was then kind of an easy overtake. And then the Ferrari just being the better car ends up moving away. I thought, oh, it's Max going to come back. And Max is really good. Silverstone, oh, let's have a little look. Let's have a little. Oh, is this going to be? And nothing become of it. And then throughout the race, we didn't really, Charles was kind of like obviously away. There was obviously pit stops and things, and we'd get to that with other teams. But the general thing of it, I felt like Alonso, what I just read, summed it up.
Yeah, obviously I do love Alonso. I think he's wrong for a bunch of reasons. I can list them all, probably be here all day. But number one, I would say, genuinely, like when was the last time? I mean, in every race, there's a genuine overtake there in every race somewhere normally, right? I mean, apart from maybe the very boring ones. In this race, there was some genuine ones like going down end of the hangar straight, your typical got on the brakes, did whatever, pushed the guy out wide, a classic. There were plenty of classic overtakes here. So I would almost say just because there's this other type of overtake too, that doesn't suddenly, detract from the fact that there were, I think, lots of sort of classic overtakes. I also think like this whole like, oh, you just push a button to overtake. It's like, yeah, but then you get overtaken again if you just push the button to overtake. Like, it's not that simple. If you just push the button to overtake, the guy behind can then just push the button to overtake back. It's about a clever deployment. I think Alonso's a little bit of a dinosaur here. And I also think that
Alonso.
he's an old school. Look, he's an old school driver.
Max
right?
is saying the same thing. Max is saying the same thing as well.
But no, Max was saying the same thing. I noticed he hasn't said it for quite a long time now, and actually he's getting to grips with it. He's understanding it, and you know what? I
don't think he likes it though. He might be getting grips with it because he's got to. And Alonso, look, he's tagging around in last for Christ's sake. So yeah, he's going to be the most disgruntled one of it, right? But Max and Alonso, you could argue, proper old school race.
But okay,
They're
so
probably...
I've been a Formula One fan my entire life, And I can tell you that this is the most exciting. And this idea that it's just the car. I mean, it first of all, it's always just the car. This is Formula One. Like this idea that Michael Schumacher was this incredible driver on a completely different level to everybody else. He was an exceptional driver, but and part of his skill was outside of the car, bringing his team around him, etc. Alonso's a fantastic driver, but Alonso's only got 2 world championships. Why? Is it because he only deserves 2 world championships? No, it's because he's not been in the fastest car. And the fact that this is about energy deployment, or it's you overtake people. I mean, the old version of Formula One. I mean, we're talking like pre-DRS days. You had to be significantly faster than the car in front of you in order to overtake. By the end of the DRS days, you had to be. I mean, they were talking about you have to be a second. You could be a second a lap faster than the guy in front of you, and you'd cruise up to the back of him, and then in his dirty air, you couldn't do a damn thing. Not a single thing. You couldn't get anywhere near him because of the dirty air. And so basically you'd be on a charge and then that's it. See you later. Like no possibility of an overtake. That was Formula One in the old sort of, through various eras. That has been
But it has
Formula
been,
One at loads of
but
times.
to be fair, in the last era, certainly since Drive to Survive started, and they say all Drive to Survive has played a part in that, but people have still been watching the races. Like Formula One has been very, very good before this regulation change. It was very, very good. Now look, when you see yo-yoing, okay, yes, that's exciting, but last season was a good season. Season before that, amazing. 2021, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen find it out with DRS. One of the best seasons in years. Like it was amazing. Last year, on your point, just quickly then, last year, Max Verstappen nearly won the World Championship, not with the best car. You cannot do that this year. I just,
No,
or in these
I
regulations.
reject that enormously. I mean, for a start,
Like,
Lewis
if
Hamilton's
you've got the
not
best,
in the best car at
no,
all,
but
and
he's
yet
and
he's
he's
in the
ex,
championship fight.
oh, yeah, and he finished third behind the guy that is leading the world championship because he's in the best energy deployment car on the grid. The
No,
guy
hang on,
who
hang on,
is
hang on.
like,
The top
how many
four,
races has Antonelli won?
the
How many
top.
Antonelli?
Okay, Antonelli's won the majority of races, but I mean that proves Antonelli maybe doing a better job than Russell. But the top four in Silverstone was Charles Leclerc, Ferrari, George Russell, Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton, Ferrari, Lando Norris,
Charlotte,
McLaren. Now I know Kimi was in there, so you put
well,
another
Kimi would have
Mercedes
won.
in there.
Kimi would have won. If he didn't have
Kimi's
a
in there.
Kimi would have won.
Max is also in there, so he obviously had the rear wing failure, so but he would have been in there or thereabouts.
But that's
What
his
I'm
car.
saying
That's
is
his car,
that
though.
that top six, it wasn't. You think back to prior to 2021 when
Yeah,
the
Rosberg and
Mercedes
Hamilton
domination,
days of the Mercedes.
Rosberg and
Yeah.
Hamilton won absolutely everything. This is a far cry from that. The years of Max Verstappen winning, where Red Bull won basically
But it's
every single race
exciting,
in
Morgan,
one season.
because of reliability. It's exciting because of reliability. If Kimi and Russell hadn't had reliability
Charles
issues
Leclerc
this year
still
with
wins the
Mercedes,
race. No, he doesn't. Or maybe Kimi wins it. Kimi wins
Kimi
it.
would have won. Kimi would have won. He was
But
on to win it. Everyone on the commentary was like, "Kimi's coming here, catch him in like, I think it was like in 2 laps.
but
He's going to
Lewis
catch
won
him,
in but
and
Lewis
they
won in
passed him."
Barcelona. You know what I mean? Like on pace
And that and from strategy
and
and
from
from a
strat.
really
Right.
aggressive strategy,
I'm
right?
just saying,
So
there's a lot going on this season, and we've got different cars performing at different levels. And the best thing is they can all follow each other nice and closely.
I'm not denying that. Like
They
when you
can
see
all
literally
overtake each other.
when you see the sprint and they're all following each other, all these things are positive. Honestly, I'm not poo-pooing on like the whole thing. I'm just saying the feeling I'm getting, and I hope and I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. I'm feeling like in this regulation or this season with that energy deployment, I want Lewis to win the world championship. I want him to chase it down. And Ferrari are going to have to work, and they've got a token to do on their engine, and I'm hoping, but they've got and it's not just the energy deployment. They've got the best chassis. They might have better aero. If they can sort their engine out, then they do have the better car, and they do have the better package, and therefore the best car, if it's with Lewis, will win the world championship. But as it stands, there is, the Mercedes has the best energy deployment, and unless there's a reliability issue or someone's just not driving great, Russell, the Mercedes will win. And we can all agree that, and that's fine. And it might not be as domineering as the height of the Mercedes era in the past, But I, I just fear that, like last season, Max almost won the World Championship by not having the best car. I don't think if you've got Russell and Antonelli, because Piastri and Norris, they had patches and stuff, but some of their things were pressurized by the driver chasing them, right? Because their car never let them down. Sometimes the team let them down, which is always going to happen in every team. So, like
And that's
Vegas, for
exciting
instance.
anyway, so that's fine.
Right, so Vegas, when they both got disqualified, things like you can't help that Max is going to gain points, but that's because the team made a mistake. But and that was part of the chase. But Schumacher's not had the best. Like we've spoken about why we think people are the greatest. Is that like not having the best machinery but still performing. This ranks highly on our grading of drivers, right? So Charles has overdriven the Ferrari for the last few years. You know, Russell overdrove that Mercedes, for instance, over the last few years, and look at now he's got the best car and he's under can't really drive the thing. But I don't see a lesser car challenging a car with the best energy deployment, and that's annoying to me. If it was because it's not got the best chassis, or it's not the best, but it's
Sure.
because of the energy
Can
deployment that
I
they
can
can't
I
do it.
counter that? Can I counter that? First of all, we're in the first year of a new generation, and actually, if you look back through the history of the first year of a new era of cars, you always get one car. The gap between first and last is always the biggest it'll ever be, and then that shrinks over time. And you always get one car that that dominates from early on. Now, in the instance of Brawn, for example, they didn't have any money for development, so they obviously fell
The
back the
double
next year.
diffuser.
But there's always a team that sort of works something out with the with a new era that the other teams don't, and so you always get that. And I would say that actually, out of the new sort of eras, again, looking back at Vettel's time at Red Bull, the Mercedes dominating with Lewis and Nico, then Max Verstappen's domination period, um, that really was large gaps between the winning car and everybody else, right? And if this
And,
is
and
this
I'll
is
tell you,
this is the new era now, it's only going to get closer, as has already been demonstrated by the fact that Ferrari brought a load of upgrades to Barcelona, and that was enough to make them the fastest car. Maybe it was a little bit track specific, maybe it was a little bit condition specific, whatever, but like they were able to bridge that gap with one sort of upgrade. And how far away a McLaren, genuinely, they could be one sort of major upgrade package away from being where Mercedes currently are. And
but
honestly,
but this is the thing, they won't be because it's what they're looking to upgrade. Like what you just said it there, 2022, and Max, the car came out and it annihilated everyone. Do you know what? Didn't have an issue with that. Do you know why I didn't have an issue with it? Because Adrian Newey designed the best car, the best aero car with the pods and all this, and it was a design beauty, and the engine was
so
reliable
you're
and
an
quick enough, and there was
aero
the
formula
the
guy, because
the
this is an engine and indeed engine deployment sort of thing, and I guess you just don't find that as sexy.
I, and I'm admitting that I think, and this is what they're saying about it's artificial in the sense that you can argue it's artificial intelligence, right? But it, when you design a wing and it's a different shape, or you have a DRS system that opens wider or it's flexible, or you have the double diffuser that Braun put in. When you design these, so you've been a bit coy, a bit clever, you've pushed the boundaries, you've pushed the rules. I'm all up for that. That is F1. When you half and half an engine and say we're going to do half um, combustion engine, we're going to do half energy deployment because of the world we live in. That I just think it's gone too far, and that's the boring side for me. Although it's resulting in yo-yoing of thingy, and that's where I think that someone could have an amazing, like McLaren did, amazing aero package in the last season, but you could have a driver in Max Verstappen that can just get hold of that car, and it was not the best car, but he can somehow outperform, out sort of maneuver. He can get into people's heads. He can, you know, just use so many different things to his advantage to chase down two McLarens. I do not see. If Russell's having a bad time, Lewis is going to go second because Russell's having a bad time. If Antonelli is on form, Antonelli will win that world championship no matter how. Lewis Hamilton could drive the race of his life every race, but if Kimi's going to drive very, very well in that Mercedes, he'll win. And and as Max in the past could, Lewis could pull on his experience, he could pull on some mind games. It doesn't matter because their button is better than his. That's what annoys me. And you could argue that someone's DRS is better than someone else's DRS, and I'll take that argument. I'll say, okay, very similar cars, but their DRS is just so much better. Red Bull had it where their DRS was so much better, they just sailed past people. And or if they were behind someone had DRS, then the other person then couldn't. They were using their DRS, but still getting nowhere near or nowhere close. And that was development after so many years, right? So that's where that happens, right? And I can't get as annoyed about that. But this is first year, first generation. I know that things can change, but from what I've seen so far this season, I think I am on the side of Max and Alonso. I do not like energy deployment and buttons like this. I think I want to see more raw. I want it to be more about the driver, less about the car. And I think that's a fair. I think that's a fair.
It's a fair thing. It's a fair thing to want.
Stance to be on.
I think it's a fair stance. I just think it's. I think that's never been the case. I think it's never been the case through modern Formula One.
Do you think this year it's less about the driver?
No, I think it's
than
more.
Previous years.
I think it's less about the out and out driving, and I think it's about which driver is smarter. And there are lots of things that you could deride through the recent history of Formula One. For example, drivers have stopped being drivers; they've been tyre managers, right? And they've been heating engineers, as Martin Brundle likes to call them, right? And so, were they pure drivers at any point during our lifetime? To be honest with you, it's always been about managing tyres, managing fuel, managing all those different things and optimizing for the absolute best. And this is just another version of that. And I would almost say, like, the double diffuser, for example, to this day, I know what a double diffuser is in theory. When I look at the back of the Brawn, I actually can't see it. I genuinely, they show a photo, oh, look at this double diffuser, and I'm like, what am I looking for here? And you can't see it in the race, can you? And yet that Brawn is only faster because it's got the double diffuser. My point being, some bit of genius that you can't see, whether it's a wing, you can't tell that a wing, you might be able to see it on the car when they're still, all that wing looks a little bit different. But look what we've got. Look what we've got this season. We've got a Macarena
in 2022.
We got a Macarena bloody rear wing from Ferrari. We've got also a flipping upside down, but doing some weird thing, Red Bull, that looks like it's opening up like the jaws of a shark. And then you've got, everybody else kind of collapsing down or whatever. You've got different interpretations of different things. It's very visual. I honestly think that.
So imagine all that in a V8, V10. Imagine all that in a V10.
The V8s are coming. The V8s are coming, right? They're coming back. We all know that. And I think that for now, this is absolutely. Not only is it fine, I'm really loving it. I loved the sprint. There are bits for me.
I've just remembered a point, because what do you think of? So this plays into my thing, and I was meant to mention it. So the light, the blinking light at the back. So Anthony Davis did this on the pad, right? So it blinks really, really fast when you're harvesting energy.
Harvesting like mad, yeah.
Yep. And then it blinks slowly when you're deploying it. Is that right? So when you're using your boost, it blinks slower, right? So the driver behind knows what you're doing. So it's not even like it's coy. I mean, okay, you could argue if someone accelerates away from you, well, he's obviously using the boost.
Have I misinterpreted that? Because I thought that the slow blink is that you are no longer deploying, and that the fast blink, or you're not deploying as much, and the fast blink is I'm doing clipping, which is I'm proper harvesting. So like slow blink means I'm harvesting a bit, and I'll be a bit slower. Fast blink means
Well,
I'm going to be really slow. But there's no blink means you're either deploying as normal at a decent rate, or you might be hitting the boost button. There's no thing to say this guy's using the boost. It's
I'll
just
be
if it's
sure on that.
yes, I'm 99.9%. I mean, I would say 100%, but I'm willing to be slightly proven wrong on it. But because they originally experimented with having different coloured lights. They had like a purple one, and they had like if you flashed purple, it meant this, and if you flashed that color, and they ditched it. I think after one weekend because they were like, look, fans don't get it, and I don't think it adds anything for the drivers. So maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in any case, I think that whole battle, and it wouldn't make any sense for it to blink when they're deploying. The whole thing is it's
Okay,
supposed to warn the driver behind that the car in front is going to be going a bit
that
slower.
they're harvesting. Yeah, right. So I've just looked up. Yeah, so actually, the slow blinking is actually the opposite. It means barely qualified here. The car is harvesting energy to charge the hybrid battery. When a driver is using the boost deploying stored energy, the rear light will completely turn off. So you don't see that they're using the boost. However, when it's blinking fast, it means, like you say, they're then harvesting harshly. But that in so, and this I think this is where I've got confused. When it's blinking fast, that is telling the driver behind, I have none, which is why I need to do this. Therefore, the driver now knows they haven't got any. I'm going to use it here. So there's a visual kind of like advantage, which again, when Anthony Davis was explaining that, and although I've intercepted it slightly wrong, but the point still stands because once we got to the end of it, my point was that the person behind knows that they're harvesting energy, not necessarily even using it. It was more of the fact that they know that they haven't got any. I don't know where I sit with that either. Now, from a safety point of view, because they're going slower, they need to know. But again, take it back to before this, when Alonso's chasing down Schumacher or whatever, he doesn't know if he's doing anything. It's just driving, isn't it? It's instinctive. It's, oh,
Look, you know how fast you are relative to the car in front of you, and if you've noticed the car in front of you is doing lift and coast, for example, at the end of the straights, then you know that they're going to be doing that. Likewise, just because it's harvesting hard doesn't mean they don't have any battery, by the way. It just means they're harvesting hard. And actually, what they found is you can goad somebody into like using a bit too much battery by changing your strat mode, which basically says, right, strat mode 1 means harvest like crazy in the first sector. Strat mode 2 means do it in the middle sector. Strat mode 3 does it in the final sector, right? Let's just pretend that those are the three options you've got. In reality, they've got like 20 different options that they can choose, and the engineers are telling them which ones they should be in. And basically, like they were saying through the race, like, oh, Ferrari have worked out with Lewis or with Charles, like, what they need to do is they need to actually change their strategy around their harvesting and their deployment, so they're harvesting and deploying in different areas to counteract Mercedes, right? And so they can do that on the dial. And basically, what they're saying there is you can choose to harvest hard when you might have 50% of your battery left, but you harvest hard to get that up to 80, 90, 100% or whatever. And so it might look to the car behind that you've got nothing, but they don't actually know what your energy level is. All they know is that you're harvesting hard. And
I
you
mean,
would
yeah,
tell that
it
anyway by
doesn't
the fact they're
reflect.
going
It
much
doesn't.
slower than you.
Yeah, it didn't reflect that way though in the commentary. Where, like, obviously, when I mean, it's even the commentators, right? They sound very negative about it. When, like, when for instance, someone is harvesting, it's almost like, oh, such and such is harvesting now, so mate, he's probably gonna be using his boost, probably gonna catch him on here, and then he sort of like does. So he hasn't tricked him into anything. He actually turned out he just had no battery left, so he was harvesting, and then the person's passed him. It Like I said, we're taught. I'm sure we're going to talk about this all season, and we'll have many more conversations. I just I want to be as excited as like you are, and I love that you're excited. I love the energy, and that you just accept that this is new engineering. It's this, but clearly, and this is what's great about debate and our podcast is that I do very much stand in that side of Alonso and Max of this, if they want to call it purist. I'm not saying I'm a purist and I'm this, but I'm clearly in that camp, and
Yeah,
I'm struggling. I'm struggling to get out of that camp, and this camp keeps getting like hated on, like, oh, just come on, and dinosaurs and old. But maybe you just love what you love, and maybe you miss what you miss, and
And
it's
look,
like,
people
ah,
people people hated DRS at the beginning because it was push a button to overtake. And I think people generally accepted it, but I don't think anybody really nobody likes DRS. DRS was just a solution to a problem that was unavoidable. The cars
but you,
could not follow each
you,
other, and you needed
but you could.
DRS because otherwise, genuinely, you would have never had an overtake ever if there wasn't DRS. But people hated it at the beginning because they're like, it's artificial, it's pushing a button to overtake. So that argument is definitely there.
It's pushing a button to open your best rear wing. So it's still it's a button to open something that you engineer. I know you engineer the engine, but I
Yeah,
suppose
why
it's
is that
just
not the
it's
same
more of a,
thing?
well, it's a visual thing, isn't it? Like
Right.
you visually see them flip the wing, and the reason he overtakes him so much better with DRS is because their wing is just better, right? And then you can also follow the timing screen and say, I know this track, and I know that in past years you've got to be roughly 3/10, sort of 300s behind, and then you can, then they're in the window. So when you see them building, they're a second behind, you know, and then they're seven, and they get into, and then you
Yeah.
see the four come up, and you go, right,
I just
they're in
think
this lap.
I just think we talked about this before. I just think you need to
The energy, you have no
relearn. You
idea.
need to
You're just waiting
relearn
for it
what
to happen.
those. You need to relearn what those signals are because I promise you, those
But
signals
you don't.
are everywhere.
But we don't know, do we? Because
No,
we
you
don't know
do
how much
know.
energy the car has. We don't know how much the car energy has.
No, you're right. You don't. But you know, there's.
So
But
when that overtakes happened, the only reason, literally, it happens when it happens. It doesn't. You're not watching it going like look. Some people don't even do this, baby, and they might think, oh, you're just an idiot. I'm looking at it going, he's going to get him 3 laps because if he sticks with him round that final corner and he can shave off one more temp, he's in next lap.
you know,
And
Ryan,
then it
I'm
happened,
doing it.
and it
I'm doing
happens.
it now. All right, right. All right. I'll teach you. I'll teach you. Okay. It goes like this. Right. First of all, a car is catching another car. Let's say they're 3.5 seconds behind, right? And they're catching them at 2 or 3 tenths a lap. So it's a bit of a slow burner, not a huge tire offset or something like that. So they slowly catch up to them, right? Now, just all you need to keep your eye on the gaps, and what you'll notice is that the driver in front knows that they're getting to a certain distance. They'll probably have it on their steering wheel, like what the gap is to the car behind. And as they approach that sort of 1 second gap, they'll change their deployment where they deploy their energy so that they deploy it as close to that overtake mode line as possible. Basically, to be like, I'm going to keep you more than a second away from me when we go over that overtake line. So I'm going to let you get up to 7/10, you know, but at one point of the circuit. But when it gets to the overtake mode line, I'm going to boost ahead of that so that you're more than a second behind me. That's what I'm going to try and do as much as possible. So that typically tends to happen. Now, some drivers do that, some drivers don't. So if they suddenly get into that 1 second, and they seem to get in there quite easily, you can bet your bottom dollar the car in front has saved some battery. Whereas if it takes them a little bit longer to get in within that 1 second, then you can bet your bottom dollar the car in front has used up quite a bit of their battery trying to make sure the guy behind stays behind and doesn't get the overtake mode, right? So that's already taught you something. So now you're thinking to yourself, okay, right, now based on that, has the guy behind, now you don't know how much battery they've used, sure, but you can kind of infer it through like how they've been creeping up 2 tenths by 2 tenths by 2 tenths. Because we don't get that huge performance drop off when the cars get close to each other. If they kind of carry on with that 2 tenths, then you know that that's just them carrying on, and they've probably both got the same amount of deployment as each other or whatever. And then as they're kind of getting into those overtaking zones, they've all got themselves like, end of the hanger straight, classic overtaking zone, right? So most of them are sort of trying to think about doing it there. What I loved about Antonelli and the real thinking drivers that are really working their way around this is they realized you don't need to, like, Martin Brundle's almost got it wrong when he talks in commentary. He's like, why would I bother doing this amazing overtake when I can just wait for the overtaking spot and I'll just overtake them there? It's almost actually the opposite now entirely, in that if you are defending, you're just saying, I don't need to defend around any of these corners. I'll wait until the classic spot and then I'll press my deploy button and I'll stay ahead. And Kimmy's gone like, brilliant. You know what? I'll deploy in a totally random area, get an overtake done in a totally bizarre part of the track, catch them off guard, and then then I'll be sort of sorted. So there's lots of
But he would have
like
got him. But he did do that. But he would have got him anyway on the next thing. So yes, brilliant to Antonelli for doing it in a unique spot, right? But not. It doesn't change anything. Like put yourself in Lewis's position. Would he be bothered that he didn't? Maybe he thinks, oh, he sort of done me a bit there. But he's thinking it's all right. He was going to get me on the next straight with it anyway because I've got no boost left. So whereas if you remember Max when he dived down the inside of the two McLarens at Imola, Italy, do you remember? And he come, Norris was too busy watching Piastri, oh no, or was it Piastri who did it? I think it was Norris was watching Max, and Piastri came and
was this last year?
yeah, and he threw it down the inside of Imola, like it just went round. It was either Max or Piastri, and it was like overtaking the year. Like it was sort of like I can't believe I can't remember exactly who it was and who it was on, but he slung it down the inside and go around like that, and he used because obviously he was concentrating on someone else. Now that is what we're talking about now with the energy, and that person would sit there and go, I left a gap there. I left a gap there for Christ's sake, because he wasn't going to do him on the next straight. He might not have even overtook him, but now he's got clean air and now he's away, and now it's going to be tricky for him to get back. And that, what you've just explained there, massively appreciate it. But doesn't that all sound so much more complicated and so long-winded compared to I have to drive better than you in all the corners, so when I get to the straight, I open my DRS, which I hope my engineers have developed to be better than yours, and I open it and I overtake you.
Do you? Well, the
And I know when I'm in a certain percentage of time, it would be unlikely that I won't be able to get that overtake done on this straight. Now, people overtaking on the straights, yes, is more boring. Using a boost to overtake round corners is more exciting. You're looking for a combination of both, I suppose, and that would be like the ultimate perfection, right?
I think so.
But for
After
as many of those corner boost overtakes there is, there's just as many.
straight line,
I've got to brake. I've got to brake now, and you're going to pass me. You probably don't even have to use it because I just need to brake and harvest. So as many as there is them, there's is them. So that they come together. If it was just what you're saying, unbelievable,
sure, okay,
unbelievable
but
time to be
do
alive in
you?
F1.
Do you not think? So I talked about this after Australia, when we were obviously introduced to these new rules, and I said that I was absolutely blown away by the fact that you could use an overtake as a bit of a weapon. And actually, like what happened in that sprint race is they were all kind of chaotically overtaking each other. Piastri went from whatever position, went miles back, and then started coming back again, and then as he sort of lost deployment and then gained it back again, and all this and people are using the boost at different times, right? Whilst all of this chaos is going on, like I said, Hamilton and Antonelli just drove away at the front and weren't getting involved in those shenanigans. And I talked in Australia about using an overtake as a weapon, going, no, I'm not faster than you. You've got a faster car than me, but I can get past you. I can get past you at a point where no matter how much boost you've got, you're not going to get past me for a couple corners because it's single file for a little while or whatever. And I thought the sprint was full of that, full of like, I'm going to get past you here. And I'm going to use it as a bit of a weapon, and they all slowed each other up, and it was fantastic. I loved it
because it was 17 laps, and they were able to do that. But once it then comes to a race, look what happens. What you end up doing as a viewer, you end up going, "Oh God, what an overtake in that corner!" And then there's he slowed down. He's just overtaking him. Oh.
It's an interesting.
Oh God, he's not in the corner.
It's an interesting one. But there is a microcosm of this. Like one really great example that happened in Silverstone, which speaks to what you're talking about. So. Lewis Hamilton drove around the outside of Copse in one of the great moves. Now, it was a boost move, but a brilliant move. Yeah. Gets past George Russell. They then go side by side into Maggots, right? And then down Hanger Straight, George gets him back because Lewis has used a little bit too much boost to go around the outside of Copse. I can see the argument, of course I can, that all of that was pointless because George just got past him anyway. And therefore, you can't be that excited that the overtake happened in the first place. You can't be excited
about Lewis's move because it didn't mean anything.
But I would counter that and say, do you remember one of the most famous pieces of commentary from recent times through goes Hamilton when Hamilton, in a much worse car, was at Silverstone a couple of years ago now. And the two drivers, I think it was Perez and Leclerc, maybe. Hamilton was in a Mercedes,
Yeah, he done them
and
both, didn't
and he got them both, and it was through goes Hamilton. And then immediately, I think I can't remember what order it is, but Leclerc gets past him pretty much like at Village slash the Loop, just a couple corners later, and then he gets done down the next straight by the other one. So you could argue that through goes Hamilton was also completely pointless because it was in a much slower car. He just managed to do a brilliant overtake, and it was actually a bit of a waste of time.
But the difference is we didn't know that that would happen
Of
after,
course
whereas
we
we
did.
did know.
Of course we did. And we
Did
did
we
because
know?
we knew Lewis was in a slower car. And when Lewis went round the outside, was it an absolute slam dunk that George would definitely be able to harvest more than him through Maggots and Beckett's, or the charging station as they were calling it? Who's to say that Lewis, he got his nose in front. Who's to say that George didn't use too much of his battery trying to, get back ahead of before Maggots, and through that section.
The fact that you're even calling it the charging station tells
I mean, I
me
wasn't calling him
this is
that. They were
wrong.
calling it.
This is wrong.
Do you know? But do you know why it's not wrong? Because the truth is, Maggots and Beckett's and that whole section has always been a charging station, right? When you're looking to fuel save, you fuel save by lifting and coasting through Maggots and Beckett's. You always have, right? If you're looking to save your tires, you take it a little bit easier and you do not hammer the car because there's so much lateral movement, there's so much load on the tires. You take it easy through Maggots and Beckett's, excuse me. So I think it's always been a charging station, or it's been the place in the lap where you tire save, because it's the place that you're going to gain the most, you're going to lose the least time and gain the most tire life. So it's always been that. It's just people don't like this because it's electricity and it's so intangible to them. I'm saying get on board, and you'll love it.
Well, I will let you know when I've removed myself from this camp and when something happens to me. I know we're on the pod and it's about F1, but I've just realised after Egypt going 2-0 up in the World Cup, Argentina are now 2-all.
I know, it's absolute craziness. I'm watching the score at the same
mental.
time. There you go. That's when we're recording this. If anyone's interested,
that's when we're recording it. If you want to know. So okay, right. This is gonna continue. It's great that we sit on opposing sides of this, because obviously it would be pretty boring every week. We got to go, I'm loving this. Or if we got on,
you know what?
It's shit. It'd be the end of it.
I think it's probably a really great summary of everything that happened in
because the fans are split, aren't they? The fans are split as well.
I think
we quite literally represent each side of a fan base.
Agreed, and indeed each side of the driver base. And I think that was it. Actually, was a perfect summary of the British Grand Prix. I mean, we could go through and sort of talk about each bit or whatever, but that really was, it was a crazy race, certainly a crazy sprint. There was lots going on. And the question is, did you enjoy it or not? And the answer, I think, well, for me, the answer was I thought it was an absolutely brilliant weekend. What a weekend. For you, I think you enjoyed it mostly, but there's just a little bit of something there that you're struggling with, and it's taken it away from you.
This is the odd thing, is that when you ask me that question, it's a great question. Did you enjoy this race? I sit there and I go, I think I did.
No,
right.
I enjoyed it, but also.
Now, I shouldn't be saying that. Like if you ask me, did I enjoy 2024 Silverstone? I would go, yeah, yep. Did I enjoy last year Silverstone when Hulkenberg finished third? Yep, great race. Yep, bit of rain, wasn't there, if I remember rightly, or something.
Something happened. Honestly, my memory.
Bit of rain, and that's why. Well, there's so many races, isn't there? But I'm sure that the reason that Hulk was up there was because we had the rain, obviously, and then he held off Hamilton for a podium. So again, I can answer that question. Yes, I did. This weekend, I go, I think I did. I think I enjoyed it. Yes.
Well, I can tell you, mate, that I absolutely loved it,
and I definitely enjoyed some parts. But if we're talking about, did I love the entire race? And I should be able to say yes, I did. And I don't know. As we've just explained, there's obviously reasons why I didn't. But I just wanted to mention actually on those, thinking of Hamilton getting a podium last year. Have you seen Hamilton's record at Silverstone? It is insane.
It's crazy.
Even when he hasn't won, it's like the amount of podiums, and even if he hasn't got a podium, it's like it is incredible.
He's an
I
unbelievable driver at Silverstone. He
oh, it's yeah,
is
it's crazy, it's
phenomenal.
crazy.
It is, and like
Right,
if you look at the way that he's won some of those races as well, I mean his record at Silverstone is unbelievable, which I think is why it was so unexpected that Charles would out qualify him and then outdo him in the race. I mean, it actually really it was such a turn up for the books. I mean, to get back to the actual sort of Grand Prix, like Charles winning. All right, I know Antonelli would have won the race, but Charles beating Hamilton at a circuit where Hamilton is so phenomenal, I think
yeah,
it was
yeah.
really surprising. And hats off to Charles because he's had a terrible time and he needed that. Boy, he needed that.
Oh, definitely,
And
definitely.
like you
It was
say,
probably
it's
quite
fantastic now, isn't it? Because he's
yeah. It probably should be a much bigger talking point, but for some reason, I I don't know if it's because he's not really in the title race or because Hamilton's been on such good form and I was a bit more disappointed that he didn't do well, and because Antonelli sort of was actually on to win that race probably and then kind of had his issue. The fact that Russell had a puncture and then he then was like out of it but then in it. I suppose all of these things were happening, which you could argue made a great race. Um, he sort of gone a bit under the radar a little bit, probably with myself, and people might be a bit disappointed that I don't have too much to say about it because maybe I'm sort of thinking he performed very well, but a little bit like Austria where Russell won it, Antonelli was the quickest driver, and it's like this week probably wouldn't have won it if Antonelli was fine. So then, but he would then finish second, and he would have beaten Lewis at this track in particular, which would have been very impressive. So yeah, hats off to Charles. Okay, let's try and zip through some of these actual notes then on the podcast after our hour-long rant about the rules and where we're at with it. We've obviously spoken about the race as well, so we've done all right. We've linked some bits in there. So talk to me, Lego cars. The reason I put this in there is because I could not believe how stupid you could be as an F1 driver. And I loved the fact that Lewis and was it Alonso, some of the wiser heads were like, I won't be going in the gravel, you utter idiots. I'm going to go round
nice to
and
see.
you.
Nice to see Fernando win a race as well, eh?
Yeah, that was quite funny when they did then cut, didn't they, and across to the finish line. But I thought it was funny. Oh, and the reason I put this in there is because why is the president in a go kart? What a twat!
Uh,
Am I the only one watching that going, dickhead, dickhead? You know, I said to you, didn't I, a few weeks ago on the pod, him tapping Kimmy on the head and like rubbing Norris's back and like chummy, 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 piss off. Just fuck off.
yeah,
Like
he's quite
literally.
creepy in general.
Oh,
So
100%. And he's got the weird stripe in his hair. And it's just like, you're just a fucking weirdo. Piss off. And the fact that no one can fucking vote you out now, you're fucking dictating. Just, just like piss off. Get off my screen. Like with Kim, stop showing him. I don't give a shit about him.
well, it's
I want
like
to watch racing. I want to watch driving. And the fact he's in a suit and he joins him in the cars, even the F1 drivers, you could see they were going, who's this twat? Who's this tit? Get him out.
it's like when they keep showing shots of Gianni Infantino at the World Cup, the FIFA president. Oh, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. I don't. And actually, you know what? A little bit like a referee. The president of FIFA, the president of the FIA, the president of any sport should be never seen, never heard. If they're doing a good
Yep.
job, then they
Yep.
should just. The fact that he is there at the end of the race, he makes such a point to go to the race winner or whatever and like try and be like mates with them or whatever. I just, like, on the one hand, I sort of feel like, oh, maybe I'm just a bit jealous that he gets to be such a fanboy, but it's like he always
Morgan,
tries
he
to
did.
make
He
it
didn't
about
have a.
himself.
Yeah. He didn't have a Lego car, right? So he didn't have a Lego car. So no point. You've got a go kart. Okay, I know that underneath the Lego there will be a go kart. But he didn't have a Lego car with FIA on it. So that's one reason. I don't know why you're in a go kart anyway. So you're not part of the Lego thing. Secondly, you're never normally on any. It's not like when they all jump in like a classic car or a truck or whatever, that he's then also in a truck and also in a car. Tell me if I'm wrong there, but I've never seen him one. If you rock up at like Monza and they're all in like classic Ferraris and classic Lamborghinis or whatever, or if you were at Silverstone, they're all in like a classic British classic car, whatever, a classic Aston and a classic Ferrari, whatever it is, classic car day.
Because it's a
He's
driver's
right at the front.
parade. And the Lego
Yeah,
car,
yeah,
it was a driver's parade. So he shouldn't, by very definition, should not be there because he's not a
and
driver.
the yeah, and it's like so. It's almost like he went, "Oh, that looks like fun. I'm the boss. Tell you what, get me a go kart, strap FIA on the side. I'm racing these guys." And it's like, no, just sit there in a on the fucking balcony with all your other toffs and your bloody money men, and just sit there and just chat bollocks about how much sponsorship you've got and how great Netflix is or whatever. Do not sit there, jump in a car, and just go off driving as if you've gone out for like a go kart with your sons and that you're like Father Joe. It's like, and the fact that he also went through the gravel and then he's like laugh, and I just think you're a tit, mate, and you've just made yourself look like even more of a tit.
I mean, what I would say is, as a very slight defense for him, I think if he wasn't such a creepy, if he wasn't such a creepy, totalitarian dictator that's like, really doing just the most despicable stuff at the top of the FIA right now, then I think both of us probably would just like let it go. Like it wouldn't be that big of a deal. We might be a little bit like, what's he doing there? But honestly, I don't think I care that much. The fact that he's such a slimy, disgusting
It's
individual,
weird. It's just weird.
I don't. Yeah, that's why I think it's such a big deal for you. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I kind of, as I have done with my entire approach towards him as an individual and everything he's doing, I think I literally just blocked it from entering
I
my
was this
mind.
close. I was this close to turning the TV off and coming back in 10 minutes. I was that close. It annoyed me that much that I was watching it and I couldn't enjoy them in the Lego because all
So
I kept thinking
so
was of
maybe
this dickhead.
so maybe the fact that I actually didn't watch it live, and I only sort of saw the clippy highlights of the Lego car race. So maybe that's why I also just wasn't so tricky because in the highlights you can hear that like I think one of the drivers calls out like, oh, look out for Mohammed or whatever or something, but like, and I was like, oh yeah, I can see him, but he was barely in the highlights. So obviously I feel like whoever clipped together the highlights realized like the fans ain't going to want to watch this.
Probably
It's not going to get any
watching the
traction on
full
social
thing.
media if we
Oh, he
if
was
we show
all
him.
over it
Was he?
on
Oh,
the
there
on
you
the
go.
full race, mate. So
There you go. Well, the
yeah,
social
yeah. But
media
but but the
admins
Lego the
clearly
Lego
agreed with
cars
you. But anyway,
the,
we'll move
the,
on.
the Lego cars were quite fun.
They were
Bit more entertaining
than just
just them
putting them
going
on a
around it
truck and
in the
going around.
car.
Yeah.
It was quite funny to see like the, some of the younger drivers were getting a bit carried away. It was just funny. Sort of Lewis at one point was literally just on his phone, just like driving, and then was like, "Yeah, I'm 41 years old." And like then you had like so and then a few of them went into the gravel, got stuck, got beached, Signs jumped on Norris's car, got taken around, and then obviously Alonso had a race, I think, with the two Cadillac boys, I think, at the end to get the straight. So it was all good
I
fun.
mean, they needed that
But
really, didn't they? They needed a bit of entertainment because God knows
yeah,
there's been
but
nothing for it.
Mohammed, if you could not involve yourself with the drivers, thank you.
Right, come on then. Let's
Um,
rattle through this list because we're way over time.
okay, right, okay. Well, while I'm okay, no, I'll tell you what. I'll chuck up the order quickly. So, a point to be made. Stroll, 20th, gets a penalty for track limits. Hilarious.
I mean, pretty hilarious. He did, I will say, slightly annoyingly, he did actually out qualify Alonso again.
Yeah,
Whisper it
but he was
quietly. That wasn't
20th
quiet.
and got done for track limits.
But he did. I mean,
And
I
as
haven't
you
seen.
shared, can't park a car.
Yeah, I mean that was funny. I had about
Yeah.
four different mates
So
send me that. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I thought that was quite funny that who gets the track limits? I can't remember any getting track limits
What was he getting
first.
track limits for? You know, like Antonelli got track limits, but for a very good reason. And actually,
Yeah,
I haven't
exactly.
seen track limits really all that much because drivers are pretty good at judging it. And like, you're going around in 20th. You shouldn't be. I can't believe he was hustling so much that he was, really pushing the limits. So yeah, it is all a bit hilarious, really.
Right,
Right,
okay.
what's next? What's next on your list?
I'm gonna take a deep breath quickly because while I'm sort of feeling this energy and anger, I'm going to do my rant.
Okay,
And
I
it
can't believe
is
your
a
rant
rant.
wasn't already done in the 1 hour rant.
That
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't see that one coming to be fair, but I didn't think I felt so passionate about the FIA and the Lego, but it just comes from somewhere. So my actual rant is mixed merch.
Mixed merch.
Right.
Where did you see this?
So so and look, tell me. I'm sure you'll clip this up, right? Tell me in the comments if people agree with me or if they disagree and they say it's harmless, and let me see if you agree with me. I'm a particularly got a bit of OCD and all that kind of stuff and whatnot, but to me, if you go to a race, I literally saw someone asking George to sign their McLaren hat,
Right.
right? And I'm sitting there thinking, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it's he doesn't race for McLaren, mate. Like, get him to sign your t-shirt, get him to sign like a piece of paper, get him to sign your arm, whatever. Don't give him a McLaren. Oh, look, I've got the. I mean, what are you going to do? Take it home. Oh, yeah, I've got George Russell to sign me a F1 hat. Yeah, but it's a McLaren hat. Yeah, no, but it's all I had on me at the time. Oh, right. But you don't drive for him. No, I know. Like, absolutely fucking stupid. And then you look at the
It's
crowds
like
and
getting
you've got people
Messi to sign your Real Madrid top that says
like
Ronaldo
the
on the
thing
back.
that it gets worse because then you see not one, I'd argue hundreds of people wearing a Red Bull t-shirt with a Ferrari hat. And I'm sitting there going, Max Lewis, Max Lewis, why? What? Why? Like, okay, why don't you just buy a Red Bull shirt and a Red Bull hat? Say, I support Max today, but I really like Lewis. So I bought a hat, popped it in the bag, and I'm going to take it home. And when I watch it at home, I might put on my Ferrari hat. You don't wear a Red Bull shirt with a Ferrari hat or a Alpine shirt with a McLaren hat and there were so many. And I've noticed it in the past, and I was like, oh, okay, but I don't know. There was something about this weekend that I'm watching it, and I don't know if it's because.
How about this? How about this? How about this? Right. What if you saw somebody wearing a Mercedes top and a Lando Norris hat? Not a McLaren hat, a Lando Norris hat. How would you feel about that? Mercedes top,
But
Lando Norris hat. A little bit like I'm currently wearing for the non-visual people. I'm wearing a Callaway golf shirt and I'm wearing a San Francisco Giants hat. So, you know, mixed brands. I don't know. Like,
yeah, well, that's your golf shirt mixed with a team that you support. Um, if you had their rivals as a T-shirt, I'd say that you're a twat.
to be okay, yeah. So but this is what I'm saying. Like, if it was a Lando hat but a Mercedes T-shirt, they're
Right,
obviously
right, so-
rivals.
right.
But it's
Do you want me to tell
driver
you?
and
Do you
team.
want me to do you want me to tell you what you do that day? Right? You say today I'm going to support Lando Norris. Right? So I'm going to wear his hat with a North Face T-shirt. Right? And then, or your other option is, I want to support Mercedes today, so I'm just going to wear my Mercedes t-shirt, no cap. Right? Take the cap home. Don't mix it up. Like, I don't know. Maybe, look, there might be people, I'm sure there's going to be many people sitting there going, you're just a tit, mate. Get over it. But I reckon there's going to be loads of people that agree with me. I think there's going to be loads of people that say, oh my God, that annoys me so much as well. Like, literally, stop mix and matching. Just pick one. And if you like more, buy the merch, take it home, wear it another weekend. I've got a Mercedes hat. When Lewis was there, I've got a McLaren hat, a Lando McLaren hat, because I wanted Lando to win the World Championship last year. Right? Can't say I own too many T-shirts, but if I had a Mercedes T-shirt, I wouldn't wear them both together. I'd just wear the one this week and say, look, I'm really rooting for the Mercedes boys, or like all season I'm rooting for McLaren. Come on, let's go.
I
I really
guess
want
people.
Lando to win.
I guess the argument that people would say is that like you can support many things at the same time, that they are just clearly showing that they support many things. Or maybe it's not saying, I'm a Red Bull fan per se. I'm a Formula One fan, of which Red Bull is a team and a team that I look out for, and so are Ferrari, and I just enjoy all of Formula One. Maybe that's what they would say. I will say I'm with you on this one to a certain degree. I don't think it icks me quite as much. The one that really gets me is my mate Ash. Shout out if you are listening. I very much doubt that you've managed to make it through our ridiculous rant. But if you have, my mate Ash went to Silverstone with his two kids, and he had one of his kids top to tail, like literally shorts, socks, the whole lot, McLaren, and then had his other kids top to tail in, I want to say, I think it was Red Bull, right? And I'm thinking, yeah, because I know that you like both of those teams, Red Bull and McLaren. I know you like them both. And you've literally thought, the kids probably haven't asked for that outfit. You've probably gone ER because they're both into Formula One because you are as their dad or whatever. And you've probably gone ER, you wear McLaren and you wear Red Bull, right? And it's almost like as a parent, you're releasing that kind of, I like both teams, so I'll get one of my kids to sort of wear one of each, sort of full kit wanker sort of outfit for the kids, right? And that kind of a little bit, I was just like, even that annoyed me to a certain extent.
But at least they're in uniform, right? I mean, I think you're a bit of a tit if you're buying all the tit, a full-grown man buying a freaking t-shirt, pretending you're in the team with a gut out here anyway. Like I just think, I've never been one for football jerseys personally. You know what I
No,
mean? Like football jerseys are for the football team. You go there sporting. I could push the boat out at like caps and things because I think like the cap is something that you would generally wear. Like, you could wear your cap to the beach. You could wear your cap out but
but
you're
also
not
you're
going to
not
wear it.
a football player and a Formula One driver. They don't wear hats. I think when you're wearing the team kit, it's almost like you're
Yes.
pretending. And I don't, I own lots of like Reading shirts, but I only wear. I'm a Reading fan, but I only wear my Reading shirt when I'm either going to watch a Reading match where I want to be in the team colours, or I'm playing football myself, and therefore I want a football top. So why not wear
Yeah,
the
you
football
went
top?
doing your food shop with your Reading
Yeah,
top on,
exactly.
aren't you?
And I'm not going to the cinema, and I'm definitely not going on holiday wearing my Reading top. Like the idea of anybody talking to me English on holiday, let alone a Reading
I
top.
saw a bloke. I saw a bloke the other day walking around Gunwharf, and there's a McLaren shop in Gunwharf, and he literally had the McLaren dry robe wanker kind of thing. It's not a dry robe, but it's a long coat, so long coat. But then he had the McLaren shoes on. Now I own a pair of Mercedes shoes that I wear karting, right? So I go to a race venue with people who are into racing, and I say, "Oh yeah, I bought these because they're like race shoes, but they're like Mercedes and Puma, so I'm just going to wear them karting." He's walking around Gunwharf shopping in McLaren shoes, and I'm just like, "This is too much. It's too much, right?" But the worst ones are Red Bull cap, McLaren t-shirt, sign saying "Go Lewis." Like, I, like that. Literally, and honestly, I could talk about this for an hour. They get worse and worse and worse. You'll get ones with literally cap, t-shirt, um, like strap or band or something of another color with a sign, and then her husband is then like Aston Martin. Not because he likes the team or likes the drivers, because he just drives an Aston Martin, even though Aston Martin don't even have an Aston Martin engine. So again, twat, idiot, absolute, just don't get it. Like, just but there we go. Like, so that's just, yeah.
All right,
My mixed merch. Just know.
mixed merch.
Tell me what you think of that. Right, moving on for more pressing matters and more important stuff. So, quickly then. So Max not happy with. This is a typical thing of like there was a bit of a mistake, but I won't blame myself. I blame the car. It turns out most people are agreeing definitely was the car, wasn't him. Very unlike Max to do a mistake anyway. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
I think it's
Definitely looks
beyond
like
doubt
it's
now,
the
isn't
car.
it, that it was the red,
Yeah,
it was the
beyond
rear
the
wing not
doubt.
showing.
Beyond doubt, it's definitely the car. So he's not happy. But then there's also rumours of him talking to McLaren. McLaren saying they're happy with their drivers. Mercedes, weirdly, I heard something the other day. They said that they're also happy with the drivers. Not going to work out. You're absolutely convinced that Toto would never want to miss out on Max again. Therefore, he would literally just sack everyone to get him. but Russell's underperforming. The obvious thing is if Russell's underperforming, Kimmy's overperforming, Max is available, you'd get rid of Russell, get Max, have a dream team, Kimmy and Max. Toto absolutely, is having a wet dream. But that apparently Mercedes aren't interested. Bit odd. McLaren happy with their drivers, although GP is going over there, and therefore Max could follow him. So and apparently there's sort of rumours in Red Bull they're a little bit disgruntled with Max now pushing to sort of go. There's obviously in his contract if he's not in the top two, he's then free to negotiate apparently with other teams and things. Anyway, it's a funny one, but I think yeah. How much do you think about these rumours? What you saying? Do we think he's just having a bit of a rant this weekend, or do you generally think you could see this guy moving on? I actually think I could see him retiring more than move to another team at this point. I don't know.
I would tend to say it's
Or a
as
sabbatical.
likely. I would tend to say
Sabbatical.
it's as likely that he might quit the sport temporarily. I don't think necessarily that would be the end of it, but I could certainly, especially as it looks like I say, it looks like the going back to V8s or whatever is very much on the cards for the future. So I think he could take a break. That I would say that's as likely as him joining another team for sure. Um, how do I feel about it? I mean, look, Mercedes insisted for ages that they weren't going to do anything, and it seemed actually like quite likely, given all the links with Mercedes and the endurance cars and all that kind of sort of stuff that he was driving. Yeah, like you could see it happening. It seemed, and that there seems to be such a lot of noise. When there's enough noise, you normally think that's got to be born from something like some genuine thing. I think I personally actually think that Max likes to throw his weight around, and I think this is him doing that. I think it's just him make trying to kind of emphasize the point. He's come out and said about the rear wing not closing being, super dangerous, which to be fair, the second last corner at Austria, not having any rear grip, pretty dangerous. Where he crashed at Silverstone, pretty dangerous to relatively high speed part of the track. So yeah, I mean, it's not great, is it? And I think he's just making a point. I think he's just flexing his muscles. And I
Have you heard the rumor of him? Have you heard the rumor of him going to that they're talking maybe him buying Racing Bull?
Yes, I've heard that rumor. Um, that's my favorite. I would say that is genuinely is my favorite. I've also
I like the people who say, yeah, I think it'd be fairer though. If he was, how the hell is that fairer? Oh, Max is coming through. Here, boys, your employer, your boss is coming through. Don't hold him up.
no,
What?
I mean, there's been some people theorizing that right now, if Max was in a racing bull, that he would be doing better. I don't know if that's necessarily true this season, but certainly in some seasons gone by, there's recent seasons gone by, people have suggested that the Racing Bull is a more drivable car, and that
It
Max
is.
could
But do you
wring the
do, do
crap
you
out of
think
it.
he would get any higher than what they're getting though? Like, do you think that
Well,
he would B
again,
to McLaren,
not
B
this
to
season,
Ferrari, B to Mercedes?
not this season because Hadjar is outperforming the Racing Bulls. And I think there is a gap there. But last season, the second Red Bull was quite regularly behind at least one of the RBs. So
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
tend to
Problem
think
is
that
that Red Bull might have been harder to
that.
drive
But
in the
then,
second time.
that whole thing of Max likes the card turned up to 11, maybe the Racing Bulls just wouldn't be sensitive enough for him. And over the course of a couple seasons, he would get that turned up to 11 and they'd be in the same place anyway. So
Exactly, exactly,
who
exactly.
who knows? Who knows?
Okay, well, that's Max. Like I say, I'm sure the story will continue and progress.
It's grumbling
Um,
on. It's not. There's not. I
yeah,
think
it's
the
not going to
rumours
go
are
away, is it?
they're whisper quiet at the moment, and I'm kind of okay with that. I don't really want any movement this early in the season. I like silly season to sort of be a bit more of a sort of a last minute panic thing. I think when it's all done and dusted by the halfway break, um, it's less entertaining. So yeah,
I think I can see him more at Mercedes than I can see him more at McLaren, if I'm honest. But then I also find it hard to see him away from Red Bull. And as we said, Red Bull sorts some stuff out. You
Maybe
have a
maybe
sort
he'll
of
go
debate
super
anyway.
left field. Max and Lewis at Ferrari. Max and Charles at
Well,
Ferrari.
that definitely have because Charles has just signed a 50-year contract.
Well, they're all contracts are there to be broken, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
I would say all contracts are there to be broken, except the ones that are 50 years old.
Yeah, well, also Lewis is
Uh,
surely not that far away from retiring, so it'd be much more likely to be Charles and Max, but that'd be great. Anyway,
I mean, to be honest, it would not surprise me if Max goes into Ferrari. I think that Lewis is probably earning, maybe not completely yet, but earning the right to leave on his own terms. If the room, if we believe that he's really sort of been helping to develop and push Ferrari in a certain direction, and there's obviously a relationship being built there. So I think that that would be a later thing. Could I see Max one day drive Ferrari? Yeah, definitely could. Um, a little bit like I did with Lewis, really. But we shall see. It's a bit further down the line, I reckon. So I've got next on the list Lewis fuck up. So was it a fuck up? Like, did it? Because obviously he ended up third when really Russell sort of got him, didn't he? When he should have a second, but then they probably had to do it. So it maybe less of a fuck. I mean, I wrote that but when I was watching it, I wrote Lewis fuck up. But actually, in the aftermath, and even hearing him, and then the team, and then the explanation, probably that is one a bit harsh. Maybe it was just like
do you see the absolute sort of poetic uh, injustice of it?
2021, 2021.
Exactly. The two times when there's a bit of a safety car, and then what's happening here. I mean, obviously not the same thing happened, but there obviously immediately everybody's trauma came right back to the surface with what was happening, and you know he obviously didn't pit in 2021 when he probably should. Well, no, he definitely should have, given what ended up happening, and this time he shouldn't have pitted. And it's the reverse has happened, that the race hasn't got back underway when it probably could have.
Because if he pitted in 2021, he would have then come out in second behind Max, and then they would have finished the race behind the safety car, and then Lewis Hamilton would have lost the world championship because he pitted.
Except for, which they weren't to know, but Michael Massey, I think that wasn't a Red Bull thing. He was always going to mess that up, but they weren't to know that
Right,
he
but
was
they
always
weren't
going to
to
mess
know
it
that,
because he went
and so,
against the
so
rules.
they definitely did the right thing because, as with this one, I even the minute the safety car came out and the car was where it was, the first thing I think about is not how long that car is going to take to be removed, because I don't think it was going to take that long to be removed. What I think about straight away is how many cars are lapped. Um, the safety car, obviously the laps that are left. And the first thing I thought of is they're not going to have time to get the car out of the way, to do the safety car laps, to unpit the cars, to then get going again. And I thought, I don't know why they pitted him, because even I know there's no way they're going to get a race going. Now, if you go by 2021 and people go, well, we're going to try every single thing to get that race going again, then you go, okay, maybe, just maybe, they might say, right, unlap the cars pretty early on, get them done. I mean, I can't understand for the life of me, because they even wait a while to unlap the cars. And Martin Brundle always says this: why don't the lap cars just drop back, and therefore it's quicker?
Which they should.
Um, he actually has an opinion that I disagree with. He says about the unlapped cars should go off, and then once they get halfway around the lap, we should just get going again anyway, because it's almost like. But that that's unfair, isn't it? Because even if you're lapped and you then make yourself unlapped and you come back to say, let's say you get back to 14th, you're still behind. You're only 3 cars back from 1 point. That if you have a good restart and a couple of good corners and a couple of good laps, you could finish 10th. So I'm a bit surprised that he thinks that.
Yeah, but that's the.
Because it should be fair for everybody, shouldn't it? Like, you should still. What if the restart happens and 10 and 11th crash, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 have to avoid the action, but 17, which is Perez in a Cadillac, slips through and he's in 10th spot. 1 lap to go, ends up getting a point for Cadillac. That could happen.
But it doesn't happen if
So
he's
why?
half a lap back.
But he doesn't
Um,
have a lap.
So, but that's why they're supposed to do one complete lap behind the safety car, so that it gives the cars the chance to get as close to the back as they possibly can. But you can't be waiting. You can't be waiting around for racing action for lapped cars. And I guess the ultimate thing they would say there is that's the way the cookie crumbles. For example, is it if I'm racing you, right? You're 10th, I'm 11th, and we're coming up to the last lap of the race, right? And if I get lapped and then the leader crosses the line, the race is over for me. Now you're ahead of both me and the person who's won the race. So you've got another lap, but now you're guaranteed to beat me because I've already taken the checkered flag because I'm going to do one less lap than you because I've been overtaken by the leader. And as soon as I cross the finish line, that's it. My race is over, and I've just finished lapped. So you could argue that that's unfair because really, there should be one more lap left for me, but I've been lapped, and therefore, and actually, this does happen. Like
Yeah.
if you're in, let's say you're in third or second or something like that, and you break down on the last lap, you can still finish in the points because maybe let's say the cars only the top 8 are on the lead lap. That means the car that finishes ninth doesn't get to complete all the laps, and therefore the fact that you completed one more lap than them.
Yeah, I suppose in that instance is you're sort of saying over the course of the race you haven't been quick enough, so therefore if you and the car in front are racing for position but you've both been lapped, you two can't fight it out for one more lap like the rest of everyone else. I can kind of see the argument of, well, you weren't quick enough throughout you had a chance to do that, but you weren't quick enough
And if
because you got lapped.
I just think
However,
if
the
you've been
safety
lapped,
car
you've been
thing,
lapped.
but the safety car thing is that you are resetting the rules. You're saying, right, back to square one, everybody. You're
But it's
coming,
not back
you're
to
getting
square
back
one
together.
because the guys who are 2 laps down don't get to unlap themselves twice, right? Like it's not meant to be back to square one. The point of the rule is to get them out of the way for the
But
lead
they just,
cars.
but they just rule the. Yes, I get that, and they just rule the person who's lapped twice. They just rule a lap off, don't they? And then,
Yeah,
but so in
yeah, they've
theory,
unlapped themselves
if the
once.
yeah, so they've unlapped themselves once, but they are now unlapped altogether as the one who's only been lapped once. Therefore, if you are now 12th or 13th, because it could even happen further up ahead. Like say the restart happens, and then third crashes with fourth, fifth, and sixth, and then seventh, eighth, and ninth, and tenth have to avoid. But then, and I'm saying this is a slim chance, right? But then, 11th ends up getting into fourth.
No, 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 I take your point. I guess my point would be, I think if you are a lapped car and you're in that situation, I just think it's tough luck. Like we can't be sitting around waiting for the cars to all do a lap and then get back onto the back. So,
Yeah.
per,
So treat it as the same as that. You weren't quick enough throughout the race, so you should have been quicker. You're done. Okay, I'm on board with that. I was just thinking, but you know, I could get on board with that.
all right.
I can look at it that way.
What's
I can look
next
at
on
it
the
that way, to
notes?
be fair. Right. Okay. So, Kimmy, loved the fight. I put there, Kimmy loved the fight. I loved that kind of like, oh, leave Bono. I'll just go for 1 point. I'll just go for 1 point because, as we know, you can win a world championship with just 1 point. So, I love the fact that he was just staying out there, laying it all there, fighting for whatever he could get. Very quick as well to do that, which I really like for such a young guy. He could have easily been disheartened. I'm world championship
Were you
leader.
as confused as me about it though? Because now obviously when the bit of his wheel shield broke, obviously that was totally screwing up his aerodynamics. So I understand that he went off a bunch of times then and was really slow because yeah, it was when they ripped it off. He comes out of the pits, he goes around like village and the loop and that, and then he goes down the straight. And then just the corner before Luffield, I forget the name of it, but that section there, that's where he went off and ultimately got his 5 second track limits violation because he went off. Now, you
Yeah,
could say, okay, yeah, he was getting used to the sort of new aerodynamics of the car, so maybe I'm being a bit harsh here.
and
But
it could be in his head maybe.
Maybe, but then what had seemed to happen is he got the 5 second penalty, and then after that, he seemed to drive brilliantly. Like he was
Yeah,
driving away from the two Alpines behind him. So it was almost like, hang on a minute, you're still way faster than the
yeah.
guys behind you. It's
Why
not
didn't you just
affecting
do
you
that
that
at the
bad.
start?
Yeah, like I was a little bit confused by that whole situation, but
Yeah, I was. I think there was probably a bit of like, naivety because even when Bono got on the radio, I mean, look, I don't expect him, and I don't think I'm not saying that an elder statesman would straight away go, well, I think it's the wheel shield actually caught in the left wheel. I'm feeling a bit of a twinge there, so it must be in that area. I'm not expecting him to say that to Bono, but Bono was sort of saying like, he's coming straight into the pits. He's going, oh, information again. Lost aerodynamics, lost this, more information came in. He's going, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. He had a bit of a panic, didn't he? And it's like in that moment, I reckon a few years on, maybe a world championship under his belt, whatever, he'd be able to sort of say, just pull him, Bono, pulling very harshly to the left. Give him any information at that point. No one's asking you to solve the problem for
yeah,
what it is,
help them
but
diagnose it
anything.
as quickly as possible.
It's pulling me to the left.
Because ultimately,
It's
what's cost him is he went into the pits twice.
yeah.
He went in, they changed the nose, and I find it weird that as they were changing the nose, they didn't notice this piece of aerodynamics
Well,
sticking out at a weird angle.
and also because they know nothing, did they? He just dived in there. Whereas if he went another lap, and maybe he's thinking, I'm going to lose more positions then, but they could then get on the video, look at what's happened. They say, oh, it's the wing shield's left, come into the pits, we'll rip it off, it should be good to go again. And done it then once,
Yeah.
then he then sets on the go.
Like
and
you
he just
say,
sort
I
of
think
gets
it's
down.
just a little bit of like rookie naivety there because,
It
like
was
you
a little
say,
bit panic
he
station.
panicked
He hasn't
and he
had anything like that yet.
no, and he dives into the pits, like you say, but without and sitting there whilst they, if they'd have just diagnosed the car whilst he was sitting there, that probably wouldn't have helped either because he would have, you're better off. He wasn't quick, but he wasn't losing like tons and tons and tons of time. And maybe a
No,
little
no.
bit of experience would have told him, like, stay out because it could be something they could fix without having to go into the pits. Like, maybe there's some setting that's broken or something like that. But you've got to give the people the opportunity to diagnose the problem. And at least if you're out on track and you're going round, you're still going round. I guess the argument against that would be Silverstone's quite a long lap. So if you are drastically slow, maybe it is better to come in and just diagnose the problem and be a bit calmer and just be like, actually, let's have a look at what's wrong with the car. I felt it weird that they immediately like, well, we'll just change the front wing. Like my first thought would have been, when he does come in as the race engineer, would have been, let's have someone check the whole front end of the car. Just spend 2 seconds looking at that, and maybe they would have done that if he'd have been a bit clearer. Like, it's my front left. It's definitely my front left. There's some problem there. Someone could have looked at that and gone, oh, I can see the problem there. It's this thing. All right, well, we'll just rip that off, and as they did,
Yeah,
and we'll see if that fixes it. But yeah, a little bit of naivety from Antonelli there. I think just a bit of
Jimmy,
youth
yeah.
coming through.
But I kind of, as all great drivers, and I think we could look back on this, and when we look back on his whole season, if he does win the World Championship, I think you can look back at that and go, God, he really wanted it, and they all do want it, of course they do, but there was just something I enjoyed about his radio messages and the desire to just anything would be good enough, like a point, and how quick he went to it. Like he didn't. So I'm out the race, Bono, and then Bono was like, "Oh, there's still a point up for grabs." It was like he was leading that.
Yeah,
And
well,
Bono was
he
there.
kept
If anything, Bono was saying, "Come in and retire."
the amount of
No,
times
I'll get a point. I'll get a point.
they kept going. He's like, I'm going to keep going. He's like, okay, then. It's really bad. Okay, well, retire the car then. No, I'm going to keep going. Oh, all right.
I'll try for a point. Yeah, but you
But
don't
the
have
car's
to,
really
can you,
bad.
mate?
Okay,
No,
well,
I want the
retire
point.
then.
Yeah. So
It was quite
I like
funny.
that. I like that. It's like a really, really, really going for it.
Yeah.
Sort of like a Hail Mary. Okay, right. What have I got here? Safety car, fuck up, fuck you, FIA. So, we've already sort of talked about
Yeah,
that.
we
We've
talked about
touched
that.
on
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
basically they should have just definitely.
But do you know the problem? The problem is it's a Michael Massey rule. So they basically brought that rule in to say that they can't just let them get halfway up the road, which they did in 2021. They have to wait a lap afterwards.
Some of them.
It's literally So it was brought in to stop the Michael Massey thing, and it is unnecessary. and they probably just need to write that rule out now and say that as long as they get.
It's amazing that they can't literally sort that out. It's crazy,
Well, they
but
can. They can. I
um,
think they're just so nervous of a Michael Massey happening again that they put belt and braces on it. But they can probably release that now because I think everybody fully accepts that it was the wrong thing that Michael Massey did, and I don't think whoever the race director is, I don't even think they've got that power anymore to necessarily do that. Decide to only unlap certain cars, but it's to stop that controversy from ever happening again. So I
yeah,
I
yeah,
do
yeah.
kind of get it, but it was a shame, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Okay, so and it's obviously a terrible way to end a race, isn't it? Really, it's a bit naff. It's never great, but and again, it's just funny as a fan. I kind of predicted that it would end under a safety car, and I was right. And what annoys me so much is it then just brings up all them gremlins to 21 because as soon as the Latifi went into that wall, I said to my good friend Skell, who was sat next to me watching that race around my house, brilliant, Hamilton's won then. There's no way they're going to clear all the mess up, unlap the cars. Lewis Hamilton's won the World Championship. And then what went on after that is like, I can't believe it happened.
And
Anyway, we've delved into that.
you got
Right.
you got a
Um,
re-triggered. Yeah, all good.
got triggered, definitely got triggered from that. Anything that triggers 2021 is a no-go for me. Right, Din and Dude of the week. So my Din straight away, FIA, and Mohammed, you're done.
Yeah, fair.
You're a Din.
Fair. I think my din was not the fact that they said that the safety car period was ending, safety car in this lap. It's the fact they called it a software error. I think the software error was that somebody pushed the button saying it was ending. Surely, I can't believe it.
Another thing though, is it? Another thing like Austria. What was Austria? What was the issue with Austria? We had Monaco with the pit lane speed. Austria, we had the issue with
The yellow flag,
the yellow
the
flag.
yellow flag in
Yeah,
qualifying.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It
And
was
that and
it was
now
another
this.
little
Yeah.
fuck up for the FIA. So yeah, that was my din. Just do. We said this with the double yellows. Just they need to just do a little bit better. And fair enough, finishing under the safety car. It was the right thing to do by the rules. It was a bit disappointing, but what made it extra disappointing was that they gave us all hope that the safety car period was ending, and then they took it away.
By literally putting it up, safety car ending.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Stupid.
Din of the week. Come on then.
And I
What's your,
thought,
who's your dude?
Lewis has got fresh tyres. He's going to do a max 2021 on Russell. No, he's not. We've ended under a safety car. Oh, wasn't that what was meant to happen in 2021? Oh, yes, it didn't though. Oh, fuck,
He's
shit, I'm
triggered
triggered.
again.
Ah,
He's triggered again, listener. Honestly, you can't set him
right.
off. Jesus. Come on then. Your
Okay, right.
dudes.
Dude, dude. Okay. My dude of the week is going. Why don't you start this one? I went with Din straight away, so you go with your dude.
My dude has to be, and again, it's really. I feel like we've done this a few times, but I think Charles Leclerc has been in just a terrible place. Some terrible form. We said, boy, did he need it. He delivered at a place where his teammate has just the most ridiculous record. So, for all of the reasons we've already talked about, I think my dude's got to be Charles Leclerc. I know that Antonelli would have won the race. You are right; he would have won the race had he not had his issue. But yeah, I am going to go Charles Leclerc getting the win. But I guess if anything, just beating Hamilton at Silverstone. Hats off, chapeau to you, sir.
Okay. Um, just a quick mention in this section. I'd like to mention Russell's puncher, where he was told, got a puncher, and then he just went, fuck it, I'm just gonna fucking go for it, and if I fucking blow up, I'll fucking blow up. And I just thought, and he actually went quicker. I mean, and there's a thing about obviously with the tire pressures being lower, you would go quicker anyway, and all this sort of stuff about us to a certain point. But I did like that. I thought it's a proper Hail Mary. Like, I got a puncher. Yeah, got a puncher, George. How fast is it? It's not very fast. It's quite a slow one. Okay,
I was
leave this with me.
I love that awareness from him to know like well it's not that fast and actually I can go quicker like you say lower tire pressures actually improve performance until you reach a certain point. So yeah, like I did like that he again we talked about this. George Russell is a thinking man and that was a thinking man's approach to the slow puncture. So yeah,
Yeah,
again
yeah.
I
I did.
I
I
accept that
did like that.
that was good. But he wasn't your dude. That was just your shout out.
that was my mention
Okay,
of almost a dudish thing.
dudish thing. Yeah.
My dude would go to I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm being harsh with Charles. Maybe it's because he was out a bit in front and didn't have. Maybe I'm trying to think of. I'm sure I sound like an idiot here, but I just don't remember him being so involved with certain overtakes and things. Maybe I've sort of not been as wooed or wowed by him this week. But I'll go, dude. I'm gonna give it to Kimmy. I did enjoy the stay out here for anything. So
It was
I
some good radio chat. There's no doubt about that, and
yeah
I
I,
enjoyed
I,
it a lot.
I, I yeah I'm gonna give my dude to Kimmy for treating a point like a world championship,
Yeah, yep. All right, I'm on board with that.
and I respect that. So there we go. Um,
You're not going
grid
to like this
rivalry.
next section, are you, Ryan? Because I know
It,
what's
it, it,
next.
it, don't you think though? Don't you? I mean, you've got to agree with me. One, I haven't got as much money as you, so it's tough anyway. But how unlucky was I this week? Like, one, I didn't realise some of the contracts, and maybe what some of my mistakes with Grid Rival this year is not signing people up long enough. Like, for instance, Lindblad. I should have put him on a longer contract. I wasn't foreseeing the kind of under 18 million for your star driver. He's without question easily the best one that you could have. So I then fucked myself a little bit there. But then I put Hulkenberg in, who had good qualifying,
Yeah,
good rate,
we both we
and
both
then
predicted him to be our sort of rando top 10, and that was on the cards for him. And he would have got it. He
was,
would have
and
got
then
his top 10 if he hadn't.
yeah,
I mean,
and then I went sort of like quite heavy with the sort of I had Antonelli, Max, and Lewis, which I thought, that Silverstone, they're all great round there. They looked like they were going to do an amazing job in like, quali in this. I'm not going to say in every quali because obviously Max qualified worse in the race, but in the sprint he qualified hard, and it was Boeing from sort of like Friday and Saturday. It was looking very good for me, and then all of a sudden, getting into the races, I'm losing Max. I'm losing Hulkenberg, my star driver as well. Um, Lewis didn't do as well as he did in the sprint and as well as I thought he would. Antonelli
would have
then
won.
was my prediction to win the race, and I thought he could win every section over the weekend. Ends up where he ended up in the bloody
And the problem
race
is, then you'd
and dropping
spent all your
back.
money, so your team that you put in was Cadillac.
Was my maximum money, and then my team I put in was Cadillac as a bit of a oh, if something happens and they just end up, and they did earn me money, so they did what I wanted them to do at the very least, which was earn me money. And then I put Ollie Behrman in there, thinking home race could push to do something. He was looking good at one stage, nothing become of it. I feel like I've been unbelievably unlucky this week, and to then make matters worse, you there was no unluckiness there. It was just
If
all
you
good. Russell got a puncher. Oh, who did you have? Russell. Where did he finish? Second. Hadjar out qualifies Max Verstappen. Never done that before. Uh, Lindblad, star driver, knew it's just a must. Norris finishes third in the sprint. Who saw that coming? No one. You did.
do you,
Charles.
do you know
Charles Leclerc.
do you know what my favorite thing about Charles is? We talked about what my grid rivals was going to be, and I said that I had everybody contracted up, which I did, and I had Oscar Piastri in, and I just had this feeling that that Charles was going to do better than Oscar, and it cost me 800 grand to get Oscar out.
Paid him.
And I thought, you know what? I have a feeling here that Charles is looking quite good, and so I swapped them. And obviously, Piastri had a nightmare of a race and finished outside the points. Not his fault, really, was it? But just got that front wing damage, and then that was it. Never was going to recover from that.
Yeah, yeah.
And Charles inherits the win. I mean, I genuinely couldn't have gone better. What's even funnier is when I when I
it's the
got
money,
8
isn't it? That's the
million,
problem.
you said you'd never seen somebody get positive 8 million. This week I've
I know,
got positive 9.5. And I didn't
I know.
even have like cheap drivers in there, right? Like I had George Russell who went up 1.1. I had Lindblad who's gone up 2. I had Hadjar up
You
1.7.
literally have more money than what you can spend now.
I think that now I'm in that realm where I genuinely can't spend all the money. I think you're correct. Or I could spend all of the money, but then I wouldn't have a turbo driver because you can only turbo up to 18 million, like you say. So I now
But I had
basically,
I lost 4.7 million. So I now have this situation where you are on a unbelievable amount of money.
yeah,
Like unbelievable
yeah.
amount of money, 143.4 million. I've lost money again, and I'm now down to 114.5 million. And now I'm in a situation where it's going to be a long old road. I can only chip away at something, if that. I'm going to need you to basically have loads of top drivers crash out, lose some money. But even if you lose 10 million, you've still got 133 million. So it's still irrelevant.
Well,
You almost need to lose 10 million every week, or you need to lose 10 million and I need to gain
10 million.
20 million to even make it fair.
Wait, so the gap listener is 28.9 million between us, which is a lot. But not only that, the points gap.
It's a Lewis
The
Hamilton. It's
points
an
gap,
Anthony.
which is of course much more important than the money, the points gap. After I received 1,214 points, you do get more points in a sprint weekend, but that anyway that is a very tasty amount of points. Ryan 789. That is brutal. His number starts with a 7. Mine starts with an 8, and then we're both in the 900s. So you are almost 1,000 points behind. It's 7,932 versus 8,979. So it's just over 1,000 points that I'm ahead, which is pretty much an entire race week. But like we said, like even if I didn't put a team in, you get 650 points
600.
automatically anyway. So it's basically 2 race weeks
I
at
need to basically
least.
chip away and either have some really good wins some weeks or just generally
And at this point, what you really need, you need
win
you
every
need
week.
me to back basically, 5 of the top drivers plus a Lindblad. You need Lindblad to have a DNF, and then all 5 of those drivers to crash into each other or whatever, and your guys to somehow come through. And you also need to avoid picking
Pick
those
the
top
best team,
drivers.
which is unlikely because the drivers that I'm picking are the ones that are most likely to crash or have an engine failure because they're on a lesser team, whatever. So what we're both saying here and what we both fundamentally most likely agree upon here is it is pretty impossible for me to win this now.
I think I think first of all, it would require an extreme amount of luck on your side, alongside some skill in picking a good team. You'd need an awful lot of luck. But not only do you need an awful lot of luck, you need me to have an awful lot of bad luck.
Bad luck. Yes,
I think
this is true.
it's very early in the season to be saying that it's done and dusted. There is an awful long way to go, and I did fall off a cliff money wise last season when I refused to take Antonelli out of my team, and he just kept on
What I
costing me
had on
money.
you,
But
like I say, I already know my mistake this year because I've done the same tactic I did last year, which worked very, very well for me, which was you were in this zone of putting long contracts, and I was in this zone of doing short-term contracts, earning quick money, doing another short contract, just getting the team right every week because it was easier to predict because we kind of you knew the teams were after so many years of that regulation, you kind of knew who the reliable drivers were, the reliable teams were. It was a bit more easier, but you had just fallen into this pattern of signing people up on long contracts, and then they would have a bad race, and you'd lose a load of money. And then when you then needed to renew a contract with a new driver, you didn't have the money to then put a good team in. So I could sort of I was playing this short contract, quick money kind of strategy. And this year it doesn't work because there's no reliability. So what looks like Anthony's definitely going to win this race, put him in, his engine's failed. Shit, I've just lost a shit ton of money.
not only that, but if you only
That
put
doesn't
him in
work.
for one race, you now can't have him in the next Grand Prix because
Then
because
I
you're
can't have
locked
the
out
next
of
one,
him.
and then in the next Grand Prix he goes and
He's
wins
probably
it.
going to win.
So then
He's probably like to
I'm
your
I'm
point from earlier in the
so
pod. Right now it
yeah
sort of looks like unless there's a reliability issue, he's pretty much going to win. It seems like he's going to win every
Yeah,
race
so
right now. So yeah,
I should have signed Antonelli and
Lindblad
up
for
to a
5 races
5 year contract,
was a big
and
deal.
even I mean, I have signed a couple of. I signed Max and I signed Lewis on certain term contracts because of what races were coming up and how well I know they go round them, and that has worked well for me. So I need to go down that strategy a little bit more in looking ahead and signing some people up for some good strategies and having a good team, and hopefully that offset can bring me back into something.
Well, maybe, but maybe this portion of the pod will die because it's game over
We
already.
might get to a stage where we're so far behind that there's no point even talking about
Just as a quick nod, I did once have a season 2 seasons ago where I finished 86th in the world. So I will quickly have a look at the global standings. I'm currently 1,828, and I'm under 1,000 points behind first place. So yeah, I'm not going to win it, obviously, but if I do a quick scroll down, 99th in the world is only 500 points, less than 500 points away from me. So there's a couple decent weeks for me there, and I could sort of sneak up the order. So who knows? That's maybe what I'm gonna focus on now that I've dispatched the competition.
it. Who knows? Who cares?
So
I know.
moving swiftly on. The next Grand Prix is Belgium. Now, obviously, we have a fallow week this week as everybody recovers from Silverstone. So yeah, I think we'll do a pod for next week, which will be answering the question that you asked about the drivers' ground effect era versus whatever. What was their peak era? And I think we'll do a little look forward to Spa in the next one,
Predictions. Yeah.
predictions, etc. So we'll leave that for then. In which case, I think we could say that we're all signed, sealed, and delivered for another podcast. What say you, Mr. Ryan?
Yes, no, we are all done, mate. So we look forward to that one. A bit of a preview for the next race, answer that question, and see if there's any new news,
See if
any
Max Verstappen's
movements
joined
on
McLaren yet.
silly season.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Ryan. Thank you very much, listener, if you've made it this far. We've certainly
A long
enjoyed
one.
putting these podcasts together, and we hope you've enjoyed listening to them so far. Roll on the next one. Toodles.
Enjoy. Toodles.
Toodles.